Hey guys, Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. Happy Friday, last day of the month. Unbelievable that July is over as of today. I have the very talented Hala Taha on the show with us. Hi Hala, how are you?
Hey Ted, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk about young and profiting and entrepreneurship and all of the cool things I read on your bio. I think that what you're doing, your podcast, the things that you're doing in our community, a lot of people could benefit from. So
Mm,
we'll take a deep dive into that in a little bit, but tell them a little bit about your background, your origin story.
sure. So I started my career in radio. I started at Hot 97, which is the number one New York radio station and the number one station in the world at the time.
Wow.
I was Angie Martinez's assistant. I did that when I was just in college. I ended up dropping out of college and being her intern slash assistant slash servant, and did anything that she wanted for almost 3 years. And basically had online radio shows while I was at the station. I worked totally for free for those 3 years, and I would make my money hosting concerts with the DJs, hosting showcases, doing things at night. And so I was like just hustling since that young of an age. And things didn't work out. I ended up leaving Hot 97. I felt devastated. It was my identity. I had grown like a big Twitter following, and like kind of lost myself for a minute. I went back to school to finish my undergrad, and I started a website. And I decided that, even though I was didn't get my dream job at Hot 97, I was going to kind of build my own path. And
Good for you.
I started something called the Sorority of Hip Hop. And within 1 week, I recruited 14 girls. I learned how to build websites by myself, and I built a blog site. And within 3 months of launching this blog site, we were one of the most popular hip hop entertainment news sites in the world. At the height of it, I had 50 bloggers under me, and we
Where
were
did that
interviewing.
idea come from, Hala? How did you? So that's such a cool, the sorority of hip hop. I get it. I love
Yeah.
it. But where did the idea come from for you to? Because that's a big deal. That's a baby you're birthing. That's an idea you're birthing, and so you want to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
Where did the idea come from?
Well, in the hip hop industry, it was very male dominated, and I felt like even the women that were in that industry, like for example, Angie Martinez was my boss, but at the end, I interned for her and gave her my whole life for 3 years and dropped out of college, and she was just like, "Bye," and so I was like, "Okay, where am I now?" Like what do I do now? And so I was like, "I'm not going to do that. I'm going to elevate other women. So I'm going to make a female-only platform." And so I advertise it as like, if you're in the entertainment industry and you want to learn new skills and you want to be with other women that have similar interests, send me your pictures, send me your bio. We're going to do the Sorority of Hip Hop and create our own platform. And you no longer need gatekeepers because you're going to be your own gatekeeper. And so that's what I did. I started this group. We became like a movement. I was shouted out on Hot 97 more than I did when I worked there. I was hired by, Funk Master Flex and DJ Camilo and all these people to host their parties. I was VIP. I got free bottles. I was just like, killing it at like not even graduated from college. You know what I mean? And
Nice.
so
You were living the
it was,
dream of
I
every college
was,
person.
I was interviewing celebrities. I was dating celebrities. It was just fun, and I made it happen by myself. And the thing is that you need to understand how to flip rejection into something positive. So that's what I did. Um, I can keep going about this story if you're interested. There's lots
Yeah,
more
I
to
love
it.
the fact. No, I like the empowerment part of it. I think that's the part when I read it that I thought was so cool because you took an industry that you said is male dominated, but there's so many females involved in hip hop, and I love how you kind of took your own spin on it and did it. I think any kind of movement that you can make is a positive one. So are you
Yeah.
still doing that?
No.
Okay,
No.
so tell us what happened after.
Yeah. So we did the Sorority of Hip Hop for 3 years, and like I said, we had a blog site, and so it's very hard to monetize a blog site. At that time, we were getting advertising and things like that, but it was really hard to monetize, and I didn't really crack the code. We were doing online radio shows, and we really made our money like hosting parties and concerts and throwing showcases and things like that. That's how we really made our money. And like I said, there's 50 girls, so imagine like that spread over 50 girls.
Right.
Only the main girls really got money. Everybody else else like didn't, but it didn't go very far and it wasn't sustainable. During this whole time period, MTV scouted us for a reality TV show. So within the first 3 months they did like a small pilot. We didn't get it, but like nobody cared because we're like, it's been 3 months. We got signed by MTV. Like, who cares? Like, what's going to happen next, right? And but then like 2 years later, MTV approached us and they were like really serious this time. And like they had us sign contracts and we got paid and I was the lead and we filmed for a whole summer and they got us a studio on Broadway and like they made it so cool and we literally had any clothes we want. We got makeup, hair done every day. It was just like a dream. We were like, oh, we're already celebrities. Like we made it. Everything's like great. They were like, you're gonna get the show this time. Like we promise it's for real. And we thought it was for real because they really invested in us. And like we threw this concert and we had a dance show and it was just like a dream, right? And then, Tiffany, I remember her name, the producer, she called me up and she's like, Hala, I'm really sorry, but we didn't pick the show. And again, it was like my identity's gone. I'm crushed. Everybody thought we were going to be, it was like at the time period when like Jersey Shore just ended. So we're like, we're the next Jersey Shore. Like this is going to be amazing. And they didn't give us the show. MTV never had a cool show after that, so they're lost. But they haven't.
The way to frame it.
They haven't. So, like, thank God. I mean, I don't want to be snooky. I think my trajectory, hopefully, is better than that. But anyway, they didn't give us a show, and at the time, I was crushed. At the time, I was like, this was the only way I could monetize this thing. I was the president of it. I started it. I was the founder. I had 50 girls, and a lot of the main girls, like, looked up to me and looked at me as like I was their ticket to celebrity, to being like to fame. And I was like, this is so much pressure. Like I was so young. It was so much pressure. I was like, I like need to sustain myself. I have like all these girls now that I like have to do something with. And one thing led to another. And we actually, the main girls were like, let's just take a break. And so we decided we were going to pretend to shut down the website. And so we had this whole thing, Sorority of Hip Hop, is we broke up. Like it was supposed to be a joke to just have publicity and buzz. And so we were just trying to get buzz. And then we were just like, you know what, let's just stop. And so we just stopped and that was it. And everybody, and some of the girls were really mad because they thought it was supposed to be a joke. And then we decided we were just going to split. And one thing led to another. And I just like I ended up like, going back, getting my MBA and going into corporate and did that for a little while. And then
how did that work out for a creative like you? What was corporate like? That must have been, it's always a challenge when you have a creative person in a corporate environment.
Yeah, I actually like excelled. Like I really excelled. And so like when I first, my first corporate job was at Hewlett Packard. And so I was an MBA student and I got this like internship and it paid really well for an internship. And it was like, I convinced them somehow that like, my web's like skills, my digital skills, and they wanted like, a techie type, marketer. And I had those skills. So they hired me even though I had like zero reason to be working at Hewlett Packard, right? And so I just like kicked up a storm when I started there. I became president. I founded this thing called the Young Employee Network. When I'm like somebody who just like always founds things. For some reason,
you love to found things. That's amazing.
I love to build a team, And so I started something called the Young Employee Network, and it was like they had these Young Employee Network chapters at Hewlett Packard. It's a huge company at the time. It had like 300,000 employees around the world, so it's a huge company, right? And so they had these chapters at every office. Our office didn't have one. So I was like, I'm going to start the Young Employee Network and I'm going to be president. And then I started like their company picnics and I started their toy drives and I started their American Heart Association partnership and like did all these things. And then all of a sudden I was like the CEO's favorite person at the company and I was getting the budget for all these picnics and I was, working for the CMO and I got promoted 5 times in 5 years. And I just really elevated really quickly because I kind of just took it. I was like an entrepreneur within a company and just like got noticed really quickly and kind of like became like a personality at the company because I was, I led this thing called Spirit Week and it was like across every single office in the company. And I was like coordinating with like 500 people to throw 120 events. And like just like did like a big shebang. So it's like I really took over that company and then I got recruited to Disney streaming services, which is where I am now.
That's correct. What do you do for them?
I am managing their email lifecycle program. So anybody who's a subscriber, we try to retain them with email, with in-app, and push. And so I help them pick their marketing platforms, negotiate contracts, deal with the vendors, integrate it with different systems. And then I also create all the processes like internally and with our partner teams to like get the stuff done. That's what I do at Disney.
Do you have something that keeps you focused and centered and calm? Like, you are high energy and high creative. You can tell your mind. I can tell you're always going. You're always thinking of creative things, which is such a cool gift. But what is your downtime like? What do you do? Do you have a system in place? Yoga, exercise? I've had all sorts of people answer this funny. What about you though? With somebody who's so high energy, I would imagine have to be something that kind of balances you and keeps you in that zen.
Yeah, I mean, I love to work out. I have, like I said, I work at Disney, but I also run this podcast, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit. So I usually have to, I work all day and then I work at night, right? And so I need that break right in between to kind of decompress, or else I would be like a hot mess. And so I love to work out. Now it's unfortunately over. I do like on-demand workouts, bar. Like cardio type stuff,
Right.
and just I just love working out. It's something that I've always done since I was younger. I always had that routine, so love to have a workout routine. I think it's really important. The other thing I do is I love to walk my dogs and just like be outside and like just like have
What
that
kind of
calm
pups do you have?
nature. I have a Maltese and a Yorkie, but they love to. They're like scrappy little dogs, and they love to run around.
All
They're
right,
not
so
bougie.
let's talk about young and profiting.
Yeah.
Putting on a podcast, people either think it's super easy or they think they could never do it. So what was the impetus behind you deciding I want to do a podcast, and where did you come up with young and profiting?
Yeah, so it actually, again, stemmed from failure and turning that negative rejection into positive energy. So like I said, I was doing all these things with the employee network at Hewlett Packard, right? And I did that global event where all around the world, every single office got involved. I was like a celebrity within the company, and I wanted to be the global Young Employee Network president, and that was like my next big thing. And so like everybody, I like did this like whole video montage, and like people all around the world were like vouching for me to be the president of this global Young Employee Network, and I was like a shoo-in. I was the most qualified. I was like, I had all the credentials. I thought like I was in the bag, like, and then HR was like, gave it to somebody else who literally had no experience, and everybody was like, what the hell? And I was like, this is like not cool. And I was again crushed, like this was what I wanted, and this is like the natural progression, and I deserved it. So I was like, you know what, I have all this time again. I was doing all this volunteer work. I'll never do that again for a corporation. I will never do that again for a corporation, because maybe it's good to do it one time, but you can't do that more than once in your life in terms of like volunteering and like giving your whole life for a corporation that could care less what happens to you,
That's a whole show we could do on that.
That's a whole show on that. So I would never do that again. So instead, I was like, I have all this free time. I want to be a leader and a voice of my generation. I don't have to do it for Hewlett Packard. Like, just because I'm not Hewlett Packard's like, young face anymore, I don't have to be that. And so I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. I love broadcasting. I've been exited from the, industry for like 4 years. I would love to get back into it and like start my personal brand over, do it a little differently. Now it's not about music and celebrities. It's about business. It's about self-improvement. Take what I've learned, take my skills in terms of being able to like start a team, start a network, get it going. And I just learned how to do it. I already had like audio production skills. And I just went for it, and I just figured it out and did it. And I called it Young and Profiting, because I guess it was like subconsciously, it was like that Young Employee Network thing. And I was like, I'm going to do it for the world and not for the company anymore. And so I started it, and it was almost like, instantly it was a lot of hard work, but I had traction from the beginning.
I love it. So tell us what you do. What is it? What can somebody, when they tune in, what can they expect the topics to be, the subjects to be?
Yeah, so our topics are broad. We interview the brightest minds in the world. So I've had folks like Mark Manson, Robert Greene, Dean Graziosi, Jim McKelvey, like really big billionaires, best-selling authors, CEOs, and we just like dig deep on one topic. So for example, I just had Brian Scudamore, who is the CEO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. He's started a franchising company, and he franchises these home service brands. So we talked a lot about like franchising and how to do that and like what that's about. It's a lot about like enhancing productivity, gaining influence. I interview like ex-FBI agents on like body language and human behavior.
Nice.
I also do like productivity. Like I had David Allen on the show talking about GTD and like time management. So lots of different shows. Lots of different topics. Anything that can help you profit financially or professionally. And I really like to have like really great experts who have like a lot of credibility on this show. So that's really the premise of it.
And where do you see yourself going? There's a meme out there that kind of is funny. All you people with your 5-year plan from 2015, how's that going for you? So what are you planning to do given the environment as it is now? What's the next step for you?
Yeah, I mean, my goal right now is to just grow my podcast as much as possible. I think I eventually will start like more of like the Hala Taha show. Maybe it will be more like YouTube based. Right now, it's like podcast channels, and I'm doing YouTube. But I don't think I can grow into the young and profiting brand. I imagine I'd like give that to my team or my interns to kind of carry on maybe in the near future. And I'd start my own show, and also starting a podcast marketing agency. I do marketing really well, and a lot of the big podcasters out there are approaching me to handle their marketing. So
Nice.
doing that also, and starting that little business right now, just started it. So lots of ways it could go, but my main goal and my like is to satisfy my listeners, to make sure I have awesome, amazing, valuable content that can help move the needle in their life, help them understand that life is limitless, help them become entrepreneurs, and or move up in their company, whatever their goals are. That's really my main goal, and then obviously getting subscribers. So
I love the broad range of topics because you never know who's going to take a nugget. And I'm sure based on the guests you just said to me, somebody's going to get a nugget every single time they tune into your podcast.
yeah,
But that's what people are looking for. They're looking for that thing because I feel like I'm going to ask you this. I feel like the world is in a bigger risk taking since COVID because they've been forced to be creative, a lot of them. Are you
yeah.
seeing that too?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I personally feel like opportunity has been like skyrocketing for
Yeah.
me since this whole time period. And I think it's because I am so digital, and I already was so digital. And so nothing really changed for me except now I have more time.
All right.
That's how I feel. And so like I just think that like if you're creative, and like you said, if you're able to take what you did in the real world and kind of repurpose it for digital, I think you'll make out okay.
Yes.
I think it's tougher for some people if they're not like used to technology, and I think that's definitely a big hurdle. And I feel really bad for anyone who's in that place, and I hope they can make it work. But I would say that it's all about your attitude, and also like keep in mind that you have so much more time now. You don't have a commute. And
Right.
you don't have like these obligations that like going to like your cousin's graduation you never wanted to go to anyway. Like that's like you don't have that anymore. So you have so much more time, and you should take advantage of it. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking advantage of the time.
I think people really have been using. I've had a lot of guests on the show since March that it's been all about they finally took the leap. They finally took the chance. So what they're doing is they're gobbling up as many podcasts like Young and Profiting, and they're really trying to figure out where their niche is and how they can capitalize, monetize, make the leap so that they can live the dream that they've
Yeah.
had. This is a great time. Challenging. We're not saying it's not challenging, but I think that if you listen to podcasts like Young and Profiting, you can get lots and lots of amazing information, and it can help. I've had people tell me, I listened to the show, and that was one of the marketing ideas that one of your guests had was the one that I was looking for. So the kind of
Yeah.
content that you're providing is it's critical. So thank you for that. Let me ask you, your age group. I'm always fascinated by when I say the word hero, who you think of.
Hero. I would have to. My hero is personal. My hero is my dad. So my dad actually passed away from COVID in May, and
I
so
am sorry.
yeah, it was terrible. Like earlier this summer was just like a mess for me. And I'm surprised that somehow I kept the podcast afloat. Somehow I kept everything afloat. But yeah, so he was already getting sick. He had diabetes, he got COVID, and like it just like went downhill. But he's my hero because he grew up in Palestine. He was a farmer's son. He was dirt poor. He grew up in one room with six siblings. He had no light. He would study to walk to school. He got a scholarship to medical school in Egypt. He came to America. He became a surgeon. He ended up owning a medical center. He like made it happen without anything, and he was so generous, and he gave back to like he put all my cousins in Palestine through school. He was the only one in his family who like really made it, and he like kind of like paid everybody's way, right, including mine. And
Amazing.
I'm forever grateful for everything he did for my family as a whole. And I literally feel like I don't make money off my podcast, and money is not my driver. I have a career, I have a business, I do a lot of things to make money. And I do my podcast because I want to give back the same way that my dad gave back. And I feel like this is my gift to the world, is my ability to kind of connect people, to make things happen, to ask great questions, to be smart enough to research, and to just try to provide value for my listeners. And so I feel like this is my way to give back, just the way that my dad gave back to everybody else.
See, as a dad, you saying that's getting me all choked up. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. All right. So how do people find you? I have the website. How can they find the podcast? How they can get in touch with you, learn more about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So Young and Profiting is on all major podcast channels. We're a #1 how-to podcast on Apple. So you can check us out there, or you can check us out on Spotify or YouTube or SoundCloud, wherever you like to listen to your podcast, all the major podcast apps. I also have a big engaged following on LinkedIn. So you can just search for my name. It's Hala Taha. That's where most of my listeners and fans are. I'm also on Instagram, starting to grow that a bit, at Yap with Hala, and youngandprofiting.com if you want to check out show notes or meet the rest of the team.
Fantastic. That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing personal stuff and the insights. It's just such a pleasure to have somebody on who wants to give back. And that is exactly what Young and Profiting is doing for people. It's giving them insights and business tips and leadership tips and self-improvement that they would maybe have to search a lot to find. And I think people are hungry for that. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And I just want to say one thing. Even though the name is Young and Profiting, it's really for all ages. Everybody that I interview is like in their 50s, 60s. I'm young, but I'm not that young. And a lot of our listeners are in their 30s, 40s, 50s. So don't be shy. If you like self-improvement content, please check out my show.
Absolutely. All right. Hala Taha, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Ted.
All right. We'll see you guys later. We'll be back around 3 o'clock, I think. Have a great weekend, Hala.
Bye, Ted.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.